Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Mads. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? The drive to 300 gets even closer, and today you guys are in for a special treat. I promise you, this is probably the best hour of listening, oh my goodness, in a long time. I am joined by my awesome dude, Tom Jurassic. If you don't know who Tom is, you will learn all about him on this episode. But my goodness, did we ever go for a deep dive into the Jurassic World saga of Lego? And man, there was a lot of fun along the way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off into this thing and get it going.
I am so in the mood for this.
I know, so am I. And that voice you're hearing is from Tom Jurassic, not Richard Kiley. The voice you're now hearing, no. We are here to talk about Jurassic World stuff, right, Tom?
We are here to talk about the latest wave of sets from Jurassic World Dominion, which feels very fitting considering I finally watched the extended edition recently.
Don't give it away. I have not gotten the shot to do it yet. Hopefully over the Christmas break. It's funny because everybody I always talk to about Jurassic World stuff, and I'm like, if you have a question, here's the social media, go ask Tom. Or you know what? I'll ask Tom. Or you know what? If you want to know, if you anything, and it's good. It stinks that we're getting to the point where I have to talk about this at the end of like the year because the movie seemed like a bajillion years ago. But it's a holiday season. There's going to be kids and adults waking up Christmas morning, shaking the box, and realize that they got a Quetzalcoatlus.
There are. That was beautiful pronunciation as well.
I learned from the best. So where do you want to kick off at here?
Shall we kick off by talking through the 4+ sets first?
We can do 4+. I don't have any of the 4+.
Okay,
to discuss.
I only have one of them.
Okay. Well, then I will let you take the lead, and I will follow your lead on this run up.
Cool. So I will talk about Pteranodon Chase then, which is the one I do have. And this was very cool because I got this off of the back of a Jurassic World Dominion event at Trafalgar Square. Was it Trafalgar Square? It was somewhere in London. They projected a massive Giganotosaurus onto a screen. It was outside the British Museum, actually. Yeah, it was. And anyway, that's not really relevant. But yeah, off the back of that event, they gave us a goodie bag and I got this set in it. And it's a fun little set. The Jeep in it is pretty simple, but it's going to be easy for kids to put together. The little fish shack on the side is quite simple. The variant of Maisie is the same minifigure that comes in the Rain Delacourt set with Rain's truck. The only difference here is she doesn't have the beanie hair hat combo. It's just a hairpiece for Maisie. And the two unique elements of this set are the Owen Grady in the red checkered shirt and also the Pteranodon. And I actually think for a 4+ set, the fact that you get an exclusive variant of a main character and also an exclusive colour scheme for a pterosaur mould that they haven't done in this colour before is really, really cool. I know in previous waves we've got the same Pteranodon re-released, so the fact that we have got a brand new Pteranodon here is really cool. And the version of Owen, the checkered shirt print, is quite nice as well. So I think it's a cool way of doing a 4+ set because it adds some appeal for collectors by putting in a couple of unique elements, which I think is really welcomed. And then the other 4+ set is the T-Rex dinosaur breakout, which I haven't picked up yet. mainly because I just forgot that I hadn't picked it up yet. But this is one that I am really excited to get my hands on, because I know when we did the preview episode, I think, where we looked at the photos of these, I'm very excited for the fact that there's US Fish and Wildlife Service printed tiles in this. I want to get a couple of the US Fish and Wildlife Service agent minifigure, and it's cool that, again, Zia and a unique version of the T-Rex comes in this. So that's my thoughts on the 4+ sets, Matt.
If I recall, the last time we talked, you were going gaga about the Fish and Wildlife minifigure, and here you are again months later, and you're still going nuts about I need more.
Yeah, so I'll send it to you later. I was so excited because one of the photos of my Mattel figures I did in the snow earlier today, I have a couple of 3 3/4 inch FBI agents. So I made them arrest Rain Delacour, and I was like, this is perfect. It looks like they're US Fish and Wildlife Service agents.
Oh, man. I've got to say, I was not the biggest fan with the dinosaur, with the T-Rex, the coloring of it.
Oh, it so easily could have been the Lost World Rex if they just tweaked the colors slightly.
Yeah. And I had my issues about it. I probably still have my own issues about it, but it is cool. It is a 4+ set. Just, you get a big dinosaur like this. Although it's not super cheap for what it is, it's still something. You get the idea behind a play set. You get some good characters. You get some print stuff. You get your T-Rex, and it's a different colored T-Rex. So you have something else to add to your collection of T-Rexes if you started from the beginning.
Yeah, it's nice to, again, still have some variety. And I think that's what they did well with the 4+ sets here, is, again, you get another unique version of Owen. I have actually seen this minifigure in person at my friend's house. Shout out to Connor Ontology. And it's a really cool looking version of Owen. And then you get that unique version of the T-Rex as well. So I think this shows that there's basically a way for Lego to make 4+ sets that collectors will still buy by locking exclusives in with them.
Absolutely. It's a way to do it.
Yeah, it really is.
It's probably the only way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think somebody's walking, unless it goes on like a deep sale, you walk in and it's 30-40% off, then it's a automatic, I think, for most adults.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Atrociraptor dinosaur bike chase.
Cool. Yeah. So this is a pretty cool set, I think. I really like the fact that they chose to include Ghost in the cheapest set, as the Atrociraptor that looks very similar to the female Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor. I think the little build is really nice. I really like the way it connects onto the T-Rex breakout set, so you get this greater sort of sense of the Malta marketplace, especially given the prevalence of this location in the film. And yeah, it's a fun little set. I think, Rain Delacour, it makes sense for him to be in the set. The motorbike, it isn't really accurate to the dirt bike that Owen uses, but it's close enough. My only gripe with this would be the fact that they decided to reuse the Legend of Isla Nublar Owen Grady minifigure, rather than creating a minifigure for Malta Owen with the shirt on. But it's really interesting seeing the parallels between that and a similar decision that Mattel made, because Mattel also did a Malta pack, which was a motorbike, a juvenile Carnotaurus, and 2 Atrociraptors and Owen, and in that they reused their figure of Owen in the Henley shirt from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So it seems like nobody wanted to attempt to create Owen's shirted appearance from the Malta market sequence.
What are your thoughts on this dinosaur here? On the new raptor that we have with the new film?
So I'll give you 2 prongs. So firstly, in terms of my thoughts on the actual dinosaur that appears in the film, I think it's really cool. Do you mind if I mention some potential spoilers for the most recent Jurassic World Evolution?
Oh yes,
DLC?
of course. Absolutely, of course.
So you do mind, so I won't mention.
Oh no, I don't mind. I'm sitting here like, of course, please give me more.
So it's really cool because in that DLC they teased the fact that Biosyn might have been involved in the creation of the Atrociraptors. at some point behind the scenes, or Lewis Dodgson was at least interested in their creation. So I like the idea that it's hinted at that at least Biosyn have something to do with the dinosaurs at the Malta black market, and that kind of helps to explain where these species that appear out of nowhere have come from. I like the fact that there's some potential description there. I also think it's cool that in the film specifically, the Atrociraptors build on the technology it's used for both the Indoraptor at Lockwood Manor with the laser-pointed designation, and also a lot of the work from the Ibris program in Jurassic World when it comes to training the Velociraptor squad to work as a cohesive unit. It's kind of cool seeing sort of that technology flipped, because essentially you see it in a controlled environment in Jurassic World, then you see it kind of getting close to falling into the wrong hands in Fallen Kingdom, and now here you see what would happen if it's fully in the wrong hands. So there's that cool iteration of the concept across the 3 films. To get more to the specific dinosaur in terms of its Lego creation, I like the new mould. I like the sense of scale on it, but what I really don't like, and I think I said the same when they introduced the new Dilophosaurus sculpt last year, is the lack of articulation. I think it's really disappointing that in order to get proportions better, Lego felt the need to negate the articulation on these figures entirely, because that makes it really difficult to pose them in particularly dynamic ways.
Yeah, I remember you bringing that up before, and I'm 100% in agreement with it. Yeah. Having the ability to manipulate legs and arms is huge when it comes to these. It just gives a different ability. Well, you know, you're a toy photographer in your own right, but not only that, where you want to be able to maneuver things, but kids don't want just a simple static dinosaur that can only stand this way.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no crouching movements. It's in its kind of stalking form to a certain degree, but it's just not the same. So yeah. I don't know that it's ever going to change in the future, but I hope it's at least something that can be examined. And is it really that difficult?
Well, so it's something I find interesting, because I think for at least a couple of months there, people were fairly sure that Dominion was going to be the last wave of Lego sets. And then obviously the rumours, and you can cut this if you need to, Matt, but the rumours of JP30 stuff have kind of made us think, well, maybe Jurassic's continuing as a Lego franchise, which is quite interesting, because I kind of expected them to introduce these new moulds and then say that's it, and in a couple of years do their own dino brand. But now I'm curious as to whether they're going to try and continue with the Jurassic license for a little bit longer, and if so, that sort of gives them the runway to really work out the best middle ground for these raptors and get them to a good scale, but also a good level of articulation, hopefully.
I have this queued up here in my notes, so we will touch on it at the end of any speculations.
Cool.
And banter about that for a little bit. So the next set on the docket here, the blue and beta Velociraptor capture. I am infatuated with this truck. I thought it was a really nice build. It's not my favorite vehicle.
Yeah.
But for what it is, for as tiny as it is, I think they did a darn good job. And I like the fact that you get the baby and blue at the same time. That works for me. The minifigs aside, I don't know near enough about the clothing. I mean, you take the ultimate deep dive and you're like, did you notice that Rain's blouse is only buttoned up by one button? And actually in the film, it was like, I don't look at things that deep, but I love hearing about it. So what are your thoughts on this?
So I'll touch on the minifigures first, actually, then. And Maisie's jacket here isn't fully spot on. She could have done with some printed arms, because in the film her jacket has got a lot of patches across it, and they're not quite emulated here, although there is a fun Lego interpretation of the logo on the back, if I remember correctly. So Lego do some fun stuff there.
I thought you were going full on, throwing me under the bus and be like, well, actually, there are some buttons to it. I thought that was coming. I was about to eat crow.
No, you're all good. But what you've reminded me of is something that really stood out to me when I got all of this line in hand, and that is just how well Lego did the vehicles in this wave. They didn't think, oh, we need to make these things bombastic, we need to make them oversized, we need to make them packed full of play features. They just went for realistic vehicles, and that's really, really what I wanted from this assortment. So I was so delighted, like you say, that this truck, for example, is just a perfect representation of that vehicle. It works so well. It's got the colour scheme, the proportions are spot on. It's just what you'd want from a set like this, where it's a lot more grounded in the realistic film world. And then I think it's worth mentioning that this is probably the most accurate version of Blue we've had across the 3 films. The Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom colour scheme, I don't know what happened there, but that Lego figure really fell off the deep end. But this one goes back towards looking a lot more realistic, a lot more grounded in terms of her colour scheme in the film. And I really like the fact that Beta then complements that by being in the same colour scheme as well. So you have 2 really, really cool dinosaurs included in the set. And then Rain, to be fair, has got a different outfit in this set, I believe. I think he has the white shirt on in both of the Malta sets, and then this is the only set where you can get him in the red shirt. And actually looking at it, Matt, I do believe that the shirt on this version is buttoned up slightly differently than the version in the Malta set. So there you go. You were onto something after all.
I was onto something that I was just making a joke about, but look at me knowing things.
Yeah, you are practically Tom Jurassic.
One day I will reach your level of attainment. I'm going to let you, even though you said I said it right. I love hearing your accent when you say this, this name of this animal for the next set. I'll let you lead it off.
The Quetzalcoatlus plane ambush.
It just rolls off the tongue.
So this set, I just love this so much. I have to say, I am very biased on this set because Lego were kind enough to send me 2 samples. They sent me the Atrociraptor chase set, although that came after it had already released. And then before launch, they sent me this set, and I was just infatuated with it from the moment I had it in hand. The Quetzalcoatlus is absolutely incredible. Like, for a bigger avian sculpt, it's fantastic. It's got the ratcheted wings, the printing on it is sharp, the beak, the dual molding on it all works incredibly well, and it's actually got a really, really decent sense of scale compared to the plane, which I was really impressed about. And then the plane is quite a small build in comparison to the size of the vehicle in the film, but it has the accurate colour scheme for the most part. It's got the 2 propeller design, it's got space for 3 figures in it, and you can even fit Owen's motorbike from the Malta Atrociraptor chase set in the back of it, just like we see happens very briefly in the Malta chase before the bike then falls back out the plane. So it's just a really, really well realised set. And when I think of a set that takes what you see from the screen and perfectly creates it, this is the set I think of, because it takes that moment from that first trailer, it recreates it perfectly, it gives us some cool minifigures, a really cool aerial animal, and it's just a fantastic set. I will say there is one thing that I would change with this set if I could, and that is the Kayla minifigure. I definitely think they should have used a different hairpiece. It does not fit for Kayla at all.
No, it does not.
I really don't know who made that decision. And she could have maybe benefited from some printed legs as well. Maybe dual molded boots on them or something, just to add a little bit more detail to her. But beyond that, I think this is a fantastic set.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention about, I'll touch on the plane here in a minute, but the dinosaur itself being an avian variety.
It's not a dinosaur, man.
Okay, I'm sorry. See, now I am no longer close to your level of attainment. I have this thing sitting on my desk at all times. Ever since I built it, it's just sitting here because it's always like a fiddle piece for me. Yeah. Like I pick it up and I just mess about with it when I'm thinking, it's like, what's that movie? The Tom Cruise, he's the lawyer. I can't remember the name of it, but he's got his thinking bat that this is my thinking, not dinosaur.
You're thinking pterosaur.
Thank you. Pterosaur. I wasn't going to say the full name. It's just too much. Anyway,
It's okay.
in the past, we've been kind of critical about the fact that Lego did not create new molds for dinosaurs and stuff like that throughout the waves that they have released in the past. And to really go above and beyond, get the scale pretty darn close, and just get a completely brand new dinosaur figure. The paint on it, I thought, was incredibly well done. The graphic team did an amazing job.
The feathers around the neck are incredible with the little like detail they add to it.
Yes, and I am in love with this thing. This is probably one of my favorite figures that they have ever done.
Yeah.
From the entire, you go back till 2015. Yeah, 2000. I think it was 2015 when the first movie released.
Yeah.
The plane itself, I'm just like you. It was one of my favorite from this entire wave. The idea of what it represented in the movie and how it was recreated here was a really great representation.
Yeah.
And then again, it scales magnificently well to your pterosaur. And I have the same complaint about the hair piece. I'm like, that could have been adjusted. And then the legs as well. I didn't think about it till you brought it up, but there's such a large catalog of legs that have printed boots. It didn't even have to be dual molded, but it could have been printed, and you could have done it that way. So I guess if I were going to criticize anything, that would be the only criticizing that I could really do.
Yeah. It's such a well realized set, and I remember, actually, it's interesting you mention us assuming that we wouldn't necessarily get new molds, because I remember when the speculation was starting to happen and when initial bits of information were starting to filter out into the public eye, I can remember there was a lot of speculation that we were getting a Quetzalcoatlus, and then there was a lot of speculation about the Giganotosaurus set actually having the Therizinosaurus as well. And I can remember when this set got confirmed, I was like, great, okay, we're getting a new mold for the Quetzalcoatlus. It means we're not going to get a new mold for the Therizinosaurus, but I'm happy about that because at least we get the Quetz. And then we got the Therizinosaurus as well, and I just freaked out over the amount of new molds that were present in this wave.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not going to give any other details, but if I'm not mistaken, you with your underground Jurassic bubble that you have with all your people, you had known even before leakers even knew. It was kind of funny because we had talked about it after, and you're like, yeah, I had the inside touch with wherever it came from. So that was I know you were freaking out about it.
Yeah,
though.
I know exactly what you're getting at. Yes, there was a reason I knew about it way ahead of time. And it was very cool. And I'll remind you of that reason when we're off of this show, because it will make you laugh.
Let's move on to the next one here. This is the set that combines with one of the previous ones we had talked about. The T-Rex and do you say it Atrociraptor or do you say Atrociraptor, right?
Atrociraptor.
But you have a better touch to it than I do. Anyway, the dinosaur breakout here.
Yes.
Big old truck looks similar to something we've seen in the past, but I think it's better build.
Yes, you are spot on that it's a better build.
The set piece that kind of goes behind it is okay. I'm not looking for super impressive there. We get a T-Rex, different colored than the one we talked about earlier. Get a different colored Atrociraptor here. And we get a host of figures, and Owen's got his shirt unbuttoned with only one button on the bottom.
But where's the green shirt over it?
So what are your thoughts on this thing, man?
I think this is a really fun playset. I definitely see why people feel like it's weaker in many areas. Because 3 out of the 4 figures are reuses. The only exclusive figure here is Daishin Lackman's Soyana Santos. Who is a cool figure to get included. She's a very cool character in the film, so I was happy to see her included here. I think the Tiger Atrociraptor is fantastic. I wasn't impressed because my Atrociraptor in my set had some paint rub in where it had shipped, so that is actually something I think is worth noting is the Atrociraptor mould, and I remember this very specifically, was shipped quite loosely in the box, so it was able to easily rub when it was shipping, and I don't think that was a particularly clever decision on Lego's part to ship it loose in the way that they did. But beyond that, it's a really great dinosaur. I think the T-Rex is a cool variant. I had initially wondered why they hadn't got the colour scheme spot on again this time, but I have some speculation around that we'll get into at the end of the episode. And I think the build is decent enough. It represents some Maltese architecture fairly well. I really like the fact that the skeleton in this and the Atrociraptor chase set combine to make what's almost a skeleton of a Dimetrodon, or a similar sort of synapsid style animal, which is quite cool. And then the truck, I actually think is a really, really strong build. I really like how complete it feels. I like how rugged the front of it feels, how you've got the little area on the side that a figure can stand on next to the cab. And I really, really, really like that the cage is removable, that you can fit 2 Atrociraptors in it at a time, and just the overall shape and scale of it. It again boils back to what we were saying beforehand, which is the fact that this feels like a realistic truck. Like, if I saw something like this with a big cage on the back of it in real life, it's not going to look like something that's pulled out of a fictional universe. And I think that, again, is where this wave really shines, is the fact that it's so grounded in its realism. So it's a strong set. It's definitely got not a particularly interesting scenery build, and like I say, some repetitive figures here which make it less appealing than some of the other sets. But with all of that said, I still think it's a decent addition to the assortment that captures one of the biggest set pieces in the film quite nicely.
Yes, absolutely. Something else that when I had built this thing, I kind of went through and I kind of examined it myself after it was done. The fact that we have Owen with a revolver piece that we haven't seen in a while, I thought was mighty impressive from them.
It might be them, I don't know, getting in the mood to raid a lost ark or something.
Aha. I see what you're saying there. I have no idea. I mean, my aha in the quiet that I don't know anything. So there's going to be somebody that's going to take that and be like, did you know that there was no confirmation at all?
If I now see an Instagram post
I am just
that
going to
says Indiana Jones line confirmed on Brick King's podcast, I'm so sorry, Matt.
I'm gonna be blamed some way, shape, or form here. The next one here, I am not going to try and say. I could probably get the one. I'm not going to try the feathered dinosaur.
I'm gonna
you can teach?
Intersect on this and say, before we talk about the final set, do we want to divert and talk about the 2 exclusives?
Before we move any further, we've got to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. You're right. I did totally forget about those. Yes, let's do that.
So if we start with the Pyroraptor and Dilophosaurus transport, again, I really love the fact that this is a realistic build. The fact that we have got a Jeep Gladiator that can sit 2 minifigures side by side and looks quite rugged is really, really awesome. I do find it interesting in retrospect that this Gladiator isn't quite identical to any of the versions of it we see in the film. It's almost an amalgamation of the several different variants of the Gladiator that are present in both the background and the little workshop scene where Malcolm and Ramsey go and get into the Gladiator before Malcolm goes to rescue everyone. So it's interesting that it's sort of an amalgamation of the different versions out there. It doesn't have the supplies on top of it or the spare wheel or anything like that, but it still works well enough. I think the Dilophosaurus is, a repackage, so it's a little unfortunate that it's not in a new colour scheme. Again, one could speculate why the Dilophosaurus wasn't in a new colour scheme this year, though, and we will come to that. And then the Pyroraptor is a really decent mould. I still, even with it in person, I don't think it quite looks like the Pyroraptor. I think it's the shape of the way they did the crest that just doesn't quite work. It like juts out too far and looks quite stagnant, where obviously it's like a feathery crest, so it should feel a little bit more dynamic and a little bit looser. But, you know, regardless of whether it looks the part fully or not, you can't deny the fact that Lego put a ton of work into trying to capture a lot of detail on this dinosaur. So I think it's still a cool inclusion. And then Ellie Sattler and Ian Malcolm are awesome minifigures. My only gripe with this set, as I said when we first saw it revealed, is why is there an Isla Nublar Jurassic World guard at a Biosyn facility?
There always has to be that one person, and you are that person.
I am that person. It's just because, and the thing is if we didn't see Biosyn guards in the film, I'd be like, it's fine because we never see them, so we don't know what they look like. But we see them quite clearly in the film. They have black tactical vests on and black baseball caps. So there was a design there that could have been used, is what I'm saying.
There must be a reason. You must dig deeper to find that reason.
This character actually appears in the background of the scene where the coffee barista is talking about the macchiato. If you look really closely, you can see this guard with this blue shirt and these grey suspenders stood in the far background face palming as he asks whether Grant wants soya milk or another type of milk.
You're too much, man. You're too much.
That scene is burned into my brain. There's forced comedy, and then there's that bloody barista scene that just happens in the middle of the Biosyn sequence.
I don't even have a response. Oh God, the Pyroraptor. I like the try behind it.
Yeah,
we've got the painted feathers. You even have the texturing there around the elbow. The mullet gone wrong is it's okay. It was a good experiment. It was.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see this dinosaur. I shouldn't say that. Who knows what the future holds with this series. I don't think we'll ever see this mold again, at least in anything related to Jurassic World. It could be some other weird fantasy thing. I don't know. Anyway, I like the attempt. It could have been better. I think most times things can be, but then the Quetz was perfect. So I can't say some things. The vehicle, the representation, again, I think they nailed it. They really, really hit the vehicles solid. This movie much better than they have in anything else in the past.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I was going to say,
go ahead.
The thing that gets me so excited with the fact that they managed to do a Jeep Gladiator with two people sat side by side is, can you imagine what we might get next year with two people sat side by side, Matt?
I haven't a clue.
We'll come to it, Matt. Don't you worry.
I know. That's why I'm going to wait. I do like the inclusion. Obviously, they were in the film, but you get some old characters in this as well, just to go with it. So I don't have any hate on this. I think it's okay. I think it's a pretty good set. It works for me. And I mean,
you just don't understand why the guard doesn't have a black tactical vest.
I just don't get it. This is absurd. How dare they?
Do you know what I will say? Actually, of all the figures that Lego could have reused, fair enough reusing this. Because we do get a lot of new minifigures throughout this assortment, so I can't complain too much about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The last of the smaller, before we get to the finale here, the Triceratops pickup truck ambush.
Yeah, with somebody who stole Gray's hoodie and somebody who stole Harry Potter's jacket. I can't believe it. So this, I think, is a really cool set. To get the elephant out of the room, the Triceratops should have been an Asutoceratops from that sequence. But obviously, we get so many new molds in this wave that there was no way we were going to get an Asutoceratops head as well, considering it's such a minor difference. I've probably just upset a lot of dinosaur fans by saying the difference between the
You
Nasuto
did.
and Trichis minor.
You know
I'm
what?
so sorry.
They're not mine. They're not mine. The people from your communities that are going to be hearing this are the ones that are going to be hunting you. Not me. It's none of mine.
Fine.
Mine are just like, oh, it's just a Lego dinosaur. You ruined it, dude.
One thing that this set really highlights that I love across some of these dinosaurs is some of the bigger dinosaurs have scars on them, and I think that's really, really cool in terms of making them feel a lot more dynamic. I think it's really dark in this scene particular, because obviously this set is based off of the sequence where Claire and Zia and Franklin go and rescue the Nasutoceratops from the cattle farm. So I find it really dark, actually, that there's this scarred up trike here, because it implies that obviously the poachers might have hurt the animal, which does hint at some of the sort of darker themes that are present in the film as well. So I found it quite interesting that Lego almost tap into that a little bit here. In terms of the builds, I really like that the ATV feels like it's a little inspired by The Lost World with the two-tone green colour scheme. I thought that was quite a cool little touch, and it goes well with the two-tone green car that we got for the Legend of Isla Nublar set, the Jeep that we got with Owen and Claire, so it works quite well. I also really like the black pickup truck here, and this again is another example of just a car working so well because it's a realistic car. It's scaled properly, it looks great, and I have debated whether I can transform this into a shield truck because it's just that accurate that it looks like it should be driven by the Men in Black or something. So it's a really great design for the truck as well. And then the minifigures, I actually think the part usage on these is cool. I don't have a problem with seeing Gray's jumper again here. I've said Grey twice and it's Zach's jumper, so there we go. I'm just cancelling myself as a fan the longer we go on. Fantastic. And then also the Harry Potter torso here I think works well on the other figure. And then we get the two figures in the sort of like criminal robbing gear, which they do wear in the film. Which look quite cool. I think it's really interesting here, actually, that in some sets we don't get particularly new torso prints, but here they made different prints for both Franklin and Claire, where they could have used the same print. I just find that quite an interesting choice to actually diversify the print across the two of them. And it's not something I'm complaining about, it's just an interesting observation, I suppose, when you look at the decisions made in some of the other sets. But yeah, overall this is a fantastic set. The trike is a really popular mould. I think people were so excited when it came back last year, so it's great to see it again in another different colour scheme this year as well.
I don't agree with any of that. No, I'm totally kidding. Minifigures aside, because I don't take the deep dive like you do. You in your fandom that is slowly losing its reliability. Anyway, the trike that's here, I love the fact that they went battle damage and that kind of stuff. We see toys, Jurassic World toys of other manufacturers that have that. I'm glad they finally have that as an opportunity for display, photography, play, whatever. Love the color behind it. And like you said, it's not in a pseudo, but again, you gotta... somebody's going to complain about price. They're going to have to make a new mold if it's going to cost you more. So unfortunately that didn't happen. Again, another solid attempt at a vehicle. The little ATV actually isn't that bad. I've seen a lot of really crappy small ATV builds. Wasn't really that bad of an attempt. I thought it worked out kind of well. I don't really have anything else to say about this set. I think it turned out pretty well. It was a simple build, nothing over the top where you're like, oh crap, how does this get rotated in here? No, but you've nailed everything. I don't have anything else to say to add to it.
It's why you bring me on for these episodes.
I just need someone else to go much more thorough with that massive background knowledge. Okay, so now we get to talk about the coup de grace.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and you just spit out that sweet name that rolls right off your tongue for both of these.
So you've got the Giganotosaurus and Therizinosaurus attack. And this is a very, very cool set.
Okay, wait. Before you go any further, I'm going to try it, but I'm going to put on a Texas twang. Okay.
Okay.
Gigantanosaurus and the Therizinosaurus. There.
I might have to cast you in season 2 of my audio drama, you know?
You know what? I can do. No. Okay. Go ahead and get back to it. I'm done.
Okay. So, getting the elephant out of the room, the Giganotosaurus does have the wrong arms, which I know a lot of people criticise. They said, why have Lego made a 3-arm mould and then not used it? I really don't care. It still looks good here. It reuses the Indominus head, but it's reprinted. It looks really cool. I like the bump on the back. Wasn't expecting to get, again, so many new molds in this wave, so I just think it works really well. And the Therizinosaurus is predominantly using the Indoraptor pieces, but with new arms and a new head. And again, I think it works really well for what it is. So both of the dinosaurs here are fantastic. The Giganotosaurus has got more of the scar printing, which works really well. And the Therizinosaurus has got lots of printing for the feathers, printing on the head, lines around the body as well. And it just looks gorgeous. So they are really, really cool. Now, the builds in this set are, I would argue, fantastic. And I'm going to blow you away, Matt, because obviously before this call I was saying to you I don't buy as much Lego as I used to. Mm-hmm. But this set, I actually went on eBay to make sure I could get a second of the structures without the figures, because this watchtower is incredible. It is not the right scale for the watchtower we see in the film, but the interpretation they've made of it is so accurate in terms of its shaping that I love it. And the interior space you get in this is really great as well, with a couple of computer consoles inside it, the play features on it. It's just a really, really solid representation of the watchtower that is such a fundamental part of the sort of design language that's essential to Biosyn Valley within the film, so it works really well. The Eurocopter we get here is way smaller than the one that we see in the film, but it's a decent enough rendition of it at this size and scale. I like the way they did the external rotors. I like the stickers for the windows with the Biosyn logos as well. They look really good. And then in terms of the laboratory itself, I really, really like this little building. So obviously in the film, Biosyn have got their sanctuary complex. It's a lot bigger. It would be really hard to emulate in a Lego set. So here Lego decided to go for their own little laboratory building, which could presumably be some kind of outcropping building somewhere within Biosyn Valley, and it works really well. You get lots of cool detail in it. You get the eggs incubator, you get a place where you can chisel away at the amber block, get computer screens with printouts for the dinosaurs on, get a little desk for Henry Wu, complete with a dinosaur skull behind it, and then also a really interesting recharge station even for the ATV. It's really interesting that there does seem to be some kind of play feature here with the helicopter carrying some kind of control device. Mm-hmm. And also the ATV seems to be a big part of that. And this is something that never really factors into the film at all. I did wonder if perhaps the control device that it's carrying is meant to be maybe the transponder that Claire has when she falls out of the plane in Dominion, but I don't think it is. So it's perhaps an interesting hint at what an earlier plot point could have been within this sequence in the film. We don't really know for sure what that is, but clearly it's meant to be some kind of playable element here. And then lastly, the minifigures are really... they're very hit or miss, I would say. So you get 2 exclusive minifigures. You get Alan Grant, who only comes in this set, which I think is a little bit cruel, putting him in just the biggest set and that's it. Although he did then release in one of the comic book little Lego comic foil bags that they do as well. So I guess he is a little bit more out there. And the other figure is Dr. Henry Wu. I nearly said his name was Henry.
Henry Wu.
Henry Wu. And Henry is, again, another interesting hint that what was clearly an earlier version of the film, because on this micro action figure, Henry has got the beard on him. which is something that we don't actually see on his character in the film. So with my figure, I have corrected it. I've given him the normal Henry Wu head, and I've also given him the Loki hair, and he looks quite good. But for this particular figure, it's a little bit inaccurate to what we see in the final film. But with that out of the way, looking at the rest of the set, it's a really, really solid set. There's some fun play features, some really great builds in this, and I think for the biggest set of the wave, Lego really knocked it out of the park with this. It's tricky for me because with Jurassic, I feel like the biggest set should always be some kind of enclosure or some kind of like fenced off paddock that dinosaurs can be held in. But actually, I think the way they did this by combining the watchtower, the lab, the helicopter, and then 2 bigger dinosaurs as well is a really, really smart way of doing the biggest set. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack, but yeah, one of my favorite things about this was the watchtower as well. I loved the build behind it, how it fit so in. Good. Yeah. It's almost like, if you recall a couple years ago when we did an episode and we talked about the little mouse ball.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of it is.
Gyrosphere.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When they had that, and it was one of those things where you and I were both like, finally, we really got something solid here. This as a play set, it is pretty darn solid, but there's something just about this watchtower that is just, it just hits the right spot.
You're exactly right in the sense that it's the same as that Gyrosphere set, where it feels like the thing from the film. So that Gyrosphere set, you get the Gyrosphere station, and rather than packing it for the play features, they made it look aesthetically like that station. And I feel like they've done the same here, where there's not as many play features on the tower, but it actually does look very close to the towers that you see in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, I like I say, I bought 2 of these, and if I had space, I would absolutely make a Biosyn Valley display with them because I like the build that much.
Yeah. It was a nice choice in the way that they went about it. Yeah. I had the same question as well, kind of like you had mentioned with the helicopter and the little ATV thing that's going on there. I know that when designers are going ahead, especially when it comes from like Universal or I don't know who Disney owns Marvel, right? Or
yeah.
Okay, like Harry Potter, all that kind of stuff. They only get so much information. They might get, makeups of plot points or certain things like that, what a creature might look like, what a vehicle might look like. And like you had mentioned a little bit ago, that this wasn't really a big part of the film in any kind of way, shape, or form. You don't know that they didn't have something originally from the production that was potentially going to be in there, was going to be scripted in, and then they ultimately pivoted and removed it or never even shot it at all for all that we know. So it's interesting when you get these kind of things like a play set where there's something that just doesn't quite fit. You always have to think about that. Most people aren't. They're just going to buy the Lego set and play with it or display it or whatever. But there's always that kind of stuff every once in a while. And you're like, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting glimpse at what could have been, because I'm sure that Henry Wu was bearded in an earlier version of the film as well. Well,
perhaps the writer was like, you do not look very good with a beard, bud. You are not Alan Grant. You aren't. Nope, sure aren't. The dinosaurs, man, I love these. Again, battle damage. The head of the Thero I love it. I love the way that it is done.
Yeah.
They really kind of captured that beak to it.
Yeah.
Which I think you really had to somehow manage to get that, or else it wouldn't sell it. You would totally miss the mark. And they really did a really good job with it. The hands are a little funky, but that's kind of hard to duplicate from the actual digital model from the film. But I thought it was pretty neat. And like you said, the building itself and then the watchtower, but the building itself, it's just a nice little, I don't know if you've built any Monkey Kid stuff, but it almost reminds me of just like a smaller Monkey Kid building that they have to go along with their sets. And it's like, I can take all these little buildings and create my own little, setup over time.
I really like the fact that, and this is something that has sort of been helped by playing Jurassic World Evolution 2 as well, is in that game you have a lot of biosim buildings, or at least in the DLC you do. So it sort of already opened my eyes to the idea that, okay, well, maybe we see the bit of the sanctuary that's all connected up via the Hyperloop, and then maybe elsewhere in the valley there are little buildings and research facilities, and I think that's where this Lego set really factors in well as well, because you can just think, well, maybe this is another part of the valley that we don't see in the film, and it kind of encourages that suspension of disbelief for a little bit.
Yeah. I know we were going to talk about potential things that are coming up. There was something else you were going to mention a little bit ago. I can't remember.
Yes.
You said you'll save that. Before Tom loses his mind any more than he already has, we got to step aside for a brief moment and we will return.
Yes, okay, so it's okay, I can remember the 2 points that I said. So, rumour is that we are getting some sets for Jurassic Park's 30th anniversary. Now, when we say we're going to talk a little bit about this, do you want me to just run through the rumour list and then we can chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, we can absolutely go through and talk about it. It's complete speculation. There is no confirmation of anything. I know that there are a lot of people that are throwing things around. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire.
Let me just say, if somebody has faked this, I will hunt you down.
And give you a tongue lashing. Not anything
I will
physical.
Hunt you down and make sure you choke on Lego bricks.
Poor fella. All right. So hit us with it, Tom.
Yes. So the set list is 76957, the Velociraptor Escape, 76958, the Dilophosaurus Ambush, 76959, the Search for the Triceratops, 76960, the Discovery of the Brachiosaurus, and 76961, Visitor Center Attack of the T-Rex. Now, something that does lend some credibility to that is Universal did recently file a trademark for the T-Rex versus Velociraptors under action figures and toys. So clearly that is a big moment from the first film that they're going to be trying to capitalize on for the 30th anniversary.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, they're just speculating. These companies don't just do these random things and just decide we're going to do this. There's a process. And one of those that you just mentioned, where you got to have that where they filed because they want the exclusivity to it.
Yep.
These things happen, and there's always somebody that is mining that information. You may think you know fans. There's the fan is short for fanatic, and there are massive fanatics out there for everything. It's the same with Star Wars. You have people that are out there that are looking at every single word that you put out in a release and picking it apart, and they're adding other things to it and coming up with this idea. So that kind of information is where this kind of stuff starts blowing up. And before you know it, they're like, I told you so.
Yeah. So there's two things that suggest to me that this is likely to happen. The first of which is, like I was saying to you, the fact that the Malta T-Rex isn't perfect for the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park colour schemes. And I remember in my review at the time saying I don't understand why they decided to go with another random design for the patterns. But now I do, because wouldn't you save the most accurate Rex you do yet for a JP30 set? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing is, if they've just worked out how to do a 2-seater Jeep Gladiator, doesn't that mean we might be getting a 2-seater Jeep Wrangler next year?
Well, it absolutely could be. We got the one in the other set that we didn't talk about, and I'll explain why at the end here. So stick around, because you're not going to want to miss that information. However, they are continuing to explore new ways of fitting in 2 minifigs into a vehicle, because it's something that people have wanted for the longest time. And like you said, you already have the Jeep Gladiator there. You don't have to do a whole lot to tweak it to get to where you need to be for what you want for a Ford Explorer, hopefully, potentially in the future.
Yeah, well, yes. A Ford Explorer, Jeep Wrangler is...
I'm sorry, Jeep Wrangler, that's what I meant.
So yeah, I think It's a very interesting list. It's all based on the first film, which is it's a very interesting decision to me, and I'm also very nervous about the Brachiosaurus.
What is your concern there?
If it's brick built.
Yeah, I thought about that as well.
So I have seen some incredible brick builds from Lego, and I have to admit that the Horizon Forbidden West tool neck looks fantastic. So clearly they can do stuff to that scale, but the tool neck had the advantage of being something that's mechanical anyway, so the jagged angles and things actually complement its design quite well. I'm not sure the same could be said for a Brachiosaurus.
So let me ask you this. With that, anybody that has seen the original film knows the iconic scene that's in there. It's something that's always talked about. It's people try and duplicate it in photography and all that kind of stuff. What would you expect to see in that? Because going as far as brick built goes, it could be adjusted based on obviously price and everything like that. So before we get any further into that, what is it that you want to see to have specifically in that if it were a set that was going to be created?
Okay, so based on the other set titles that we have here, if I was to take a stab in the dark, I would guess that set isn't going to include Ian Malcolm or the Jurassic Park worker. I think it could be quite a nice little diorama piece of a couple of palm trees with the Brachiosaurus on its hind legs, and then one Jeep Wrangler, the Jeep Wrangler that has got Grant, Sattler, and Hammond, but I could see them also throwing Gennaro into this set because he's present when they see the Brachiosaurus, and making Gennaro the exclusive minifigure in this set. So you have this big, what's rumoured to be $80 set that maybe isn't that much in terms of its substance. You get the Jeep Wrangler, you get a little display piece, and then hopefully the big focus is the Brachiosaurus. But the Brachiosaurus combined with the exclusive minifigure of Gennaro will be the big draw for it.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. 100%. Now, the reason I asked that was you had talked about the tall neck and the Horizon Forbidden West. Many people have seen it. Many people have built it, really love it.
I'm really tempted to buy it.
So I don't want to spend your money yet. But that is a different size scale in comparison. It's a completely different build. The neck, like you had mentioned, I think that it is going to be something super difficult to get. Price is where, if let's say for instance, it is 80, okay, €80, $80.
Yeah.
The T-Rex breakout, which again, we'll talk about that here at the end here. That was $100. And you look at now, the T-Rex wasn't super amazingly detailed, but it wasn't horrible. And you had much more of a background because you had to have that scene laid out. That set wouldn't have worked without having the scene laid out. But I think if you took around 1,000 parts and you were able to use most of that on, your dinosaur, your long neck there, I think you could probably get it kind of close. That neck would be super difficult because, again, you got to talk about scale. If you scale the body right, the neck will work. But if you miss it on the body, there's only so much you can do with the neck because Lego pieces are only so small.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is getting it right, isn't it? Because if you get the proportions slightly wrong, then you really limit yourself in terms of the parts you can use. And if you limit yourself in terms of the parts you can use, then you're taking what's already a really hard challenge and making it nigh impossible. Yeah,
absolutely. Is there anything out of this potential discussion of what could be coming? Is there anything that you had thought of maybe in the past? I know we've talked about before, like, what would you like to see? Is there anything that is not potentially on that list that you would have liked to have been able to get?
It all depends. The big set for me, it's up in the air right now, is the Velociraptor Escape at $35. Because if that's a redo of the kitchen encounter or the bunker chase sequence with Ellie and Muldoon, I think I'd be slightly disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really hoping the Velociraptor escape is that cage from the start of the film with Muldoon and Joffrey.
Mm-hmm.
If it's that, I'll be very happy. So that's the only thing when there's a bit of contention for me. I think the only other fear I've got is the Dilophosaurus ambush set is $20. Now that has to be a set that has Nedry in it, surely.
Yep.
So for $20, are we just getting a vignette of Nedry falling down the waterfall with a Dilophosaurus? Because there's no way you're doing a Jeep Wrangler at that price. Unless it is just the Jeep and the Dilophosaurus, but even then, $20 seems too little. So I'm very curious, I suppose, about how they're going to realise these sets, because in theory, a Jurassic Park wave would be the dream wave, but the moments they've chosen here are quite restricted to characters that we potentially already have. So I'm interested to see how they give us the characters we don't have that fans really want. And also I can't quite envision what they're going to include in them yet.
Well, and I mean, there's set numbers and stuff like that out there. Everybody knows with JP30 coming, there's always stuff that comes. There's going to be stuff from Mattel, Hasbro, any other kind of manufacturer that's out there, clothing manufacturer, bedding, everything. Lego is not going to be left out in the cold. I can tell you that much. They are not dumb. They are not a multi-billion-dollar company for lack of intelligence. Yeah. So I would be curious to see, though, the Dilophosaurus ambush, like you had mentioned, being at that $20 price point. As soon as you had mentioned it, assuming it is, because again, none of this is confirmed or anything like that. But my question behind that is, we get every year with Lego City, you get a vehicle that is there was a pizza truck one year and it was, I don't know, but they always have these little $20 vehicle sets, and it's basically a very much built up vehicle and just this super duper duper tiny little set piece that might come with it. So in my mind, your Jeep, let's say for instance, you have your Dilophosaurus, which would probably be a repack, right?
Oh, it better be a new color if it's a repack.
Yeah. Tom's over there about to pound his fist on the
If it's a
desk.
repack, I'm gonna kill someone. You're gonna need to cut out all the references to me saying I'm gonna hurt people in this episode, or people are gonna get the wrong idea.
You know what? I'm keeping it. That's evidence right there. Because when the FBI or London Yard comes looking, I'll be like, "It's in here. Did you hear?
Did you just say London Yard?
I went 101 Dalmatians. Is that not right?
It's Scotland Yard, but it's okay.
Sorry, Scottish folks. And I apologize, London. Okay, whatever. I tried, okay?
I mean, Scotland Yard is in London, so...
I tried. Dang, man. This is a tough crowd. But...
somebody's just walked out. They've had enough.
I would assume, though, that if you have your Dilophosaurus, if you have Nedry, I would imagine you would have the sign, which is would only be a few pieces, but that would limit the size of your vehicle. Maybe you don't have any vegetation or anything like that. Maybe you don't actually have a build of a waterfall or anything like that. That's not a whole lot of pieces. That's 250, maybe even 200 based on the fact that it is plastic and the dinosaur is solid plastic. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one.
The thing that worries me is the best comparison to this set is Dilophosaurus Ambush from 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you a fun fact that I think I might have told you before. That set was originally a Jurassic Park Jeep, which is why it's the Jeep Wrangler design to a T, because it was originally Jeep 19 that they use in Jurassic World, the kids use. And then it got changed closer to launch because they wanted to focus on the new Jurassic World brand instead of the old Jurassic Park brand.
Yeah.
So they do already have the design for a Wrangler, and that set I think was $30. So it's $10 more, and that isn't a Wrangler that can sit two people either. That's just one seat in the middle. So it does make you question it. Because if this is Nedry's Jeep, is it going to have cloth elements to recreate the appearance it has in the film?
Yeah.
And if it has cloth elements, are they going to be more costly? It's a whole series of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot to it. And as JP30 gets closer and closer, it's only going to heat up even more so. But I wanted to share the news with everyone. Tom already knows because I asked Tom, would you be game for this? So the set that we didn't talk about, the T-Rex Breakout 76956, we didn't forget about it. It's not like we didn't like it. There's a reason. So Tom and I are going to be back for a 2-episode thing early 2023, hopefully sometime in January, where
hopefully you guys will listen to another episode with me.
Right. Hopefully you haven't been imprisoned. With all these threats and stuff. But we're going to break down the set, talk about it. And then we are going to be joined on another episode by the designer Atticus. I don't know if Woon, who is the secondary designer, I don't know if he'll join as well. Usually they try and put whoever worked on it together, like the 1 or 2 designers together. But Atticus is who we are going to be talking with. But during the holiday season, it's not going to be happening. It's going to happen after. So that is something to be looking forward to. You're not going to get that anywhere else. You're not going to get the insight from Tom, who's already probably got a 50 question list just specifically about this set.
Oh, I do. I've gone fully into the minutia for this one, Matt.
Well, they usually give us
how long did it take
minutes.
you to design the computer screen sticker that perfectly replicates the CD-ROM seen in the Ford Explorers in the 1993 film?
Do I have to request the graphic designer behind the set as well?
Yes, and you need to request the packaging artist. You need to request the person who did the marketing. If I think of anyone else, I'll let you know.
It's not a big list at all. I'm sure that they can easily manage that. So that is what is coming up with Tom in the future. And then obviously whenever JP30 becomes a thing, it officially becomes a thing, he'll be back to spill all his guts on that. But make sure you guys stay around with Tom Jurassic, especially like I said, coming up in January with those 2 big shows. So Tom, hit your socials, let everybody know what you're working on before we get out of here, man.
You can follow me on Tom_Jurassic on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm really, really excited because in 2023 I'm going to be debuting season 1 of Tales from a Jurassic World, which is a 6-part audio drama following the US Fish and Wildlife Service between the events of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World Dominion as they begin to adapt to life with dinosaurs in the wild.
That is more than impressive. Based on our conversations earlier, it's like your rocket is just setting off. Like it is just taking off. I don't know when you're going to get to outer space, but it doesn't seem like it's very far to get there. So
I'll keep you in the loop. I'll video call you from the ISS.
There we go. Where you're going to find dinosaurs. Absolutely. They are hiding dinosaurs up in space. You didn't know that. So, Tom, it has been a blast, man. We've been at this for over an hour. I always get inundated with requests. I wish the podcast was longer. I wish it was longer. Do you think you could have gone? Well, now you got more than an hour. That should be suffice to keep you to at least the middle or late January. So thanks for coming on again, Tom, and giving all the information. We'll have you back soon, man.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Well, that is going to do it. That is going to do it for another fantastic episode where I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope you guys did as well. I hope you learned more things about Lego. You enjoyed the opportunity to get a deeper dive into the Jurassic World Lego scene, of course. And hopefully the banter as it went through, which had me laughing as I went back through this multiple times. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and get out of here. Until we meet again, I am your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.